Alright, so we're going to finish Chapter 3 with a 3.5 midterm notes. This first question is like, I'll write this down, number 39 on the review. So the way I do it is the way you should do it. Mine has a lot more lines. Yours has 4. Mine looks to have 5. I mean, one extra line, but it's still extra. You have to tell me which ones are parallel and which ones are perpendicular. In order to do that, you need to know the slopes. So remember how we show work in math? The work here would be the slopes. So you're going to tell me what all the slopes are. Let's do alphabetical order. So let's do R first. So line R, because that's how we name lines. It's this line if you want to make sure you're looking at the same spot. Find 2 points on this line. You want to decide, is this positive or negative? As it goes from the left to the right, is it going up or going down? It's going down, so it's negative. Then you're going to count the rise over the run. Okay, so rise over run. So when we rise here, we're actually not rising. We're going to drop down 1, 2, 3. So 3 and over 1, 2, 3, 4. So the slope of line R is negative 3/4. We'll move on to line S. So line S, same thing. We're going to ask ourselves, we're going to find 2 points on line S. Is this a positive or a negative slope? It is still going left to right. It's negative. So we're going to see how much we drop. 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3. So in math, we do reduce. So 3 over 3 is the same as 1. So that means realistically they went down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, which is very true. The next line we'll do, RST, we're going to do this one. Find your 2 points. Line T. So again, you want to ask yourself, is this a positive or is it a negative? As it goes from left to right, it is dropping. So it's going down 1, 2, 3. So negative. Down 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 3 over 4. Oh man, I missed P. Well, there it is what it is. We'll do line P. Doesn't actually matter the order, I just was picking an order. Here's line P. Decide if it's positive or negative. As it goes from the left to the right, is it getting taller or smaller? It's getting taller, which makes it positive. Find your 2 points on the line. We're going to do our rise over our run. So let's see how much we rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we rise 5, and then we run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This does reduce. 5 over 5 is the same as 1. So again, that means you could have actually gone up 1 over 1, 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 which looks to be true. Last one, line Q. I'm just going to write it down here. Line Q. As it goes left to right, is it getting taller or smaller? It's getting taller, which means it's positive. Do your rise over your run. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3, which again reduces to 1. So now we're going to find which ones are parallel and which ones are perpendicular. So parallel means they have the same slope. Pretty sure that is a word-for-word question on your review. Perpendicular means they have the opposite sign and the reciprocal. Ran out of room. Reciprocal means you flip. So opposite sign and you flip. So let's find which ones are parallel. Parallel will have the same exact slope. So it looks like line T and line R have the same, so we'll start there. Line T is parallel to line R. And then it also looks like P and Q. So line P is parallel to line Q. Okay, so that's what we got going there. We'll do perpendicular. Perpendicular means opposite sign and the reciprocal. So perpendicular to negative 3/4 would be 4/3. And I don't see that. So there isn't going to be a perpendicular with negative 3/4. Perpendicular with -1 would be +1, which I do see. So we're going to say line S is perpendicular to line P. It's also going to be perpendicular with line Q. So all 4 of these are the answer. All of them. But remember to show your work, always, which would be showing me my slopes. This next one, tell whether the lines given are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So again, parallel, they would have the same. Perpendicular would mean opposite and reciprocal. And again, neither means neither. So we have 2 lines. We're going to find the slope. So in order to do that, we need the slope formula. So let's find the slope of line 1. Let's do that one first. Line 1. So we're only looking at those first 2 points. So let's do our first y, which is 0, minus our second y, which is 2, our first x, which is 2, and our second x, which is -2. So we'll simplify. 0 minus 2 is -2. 2 minus -2 makes positive, so that'd be 4. We do reduce in math, so this is actually -1/2 is our first slope. For line 2, we'll use the same formula. Except for now, we're only looking at the next 2 points. So my first y is -2. My second y is 4. My first x is 1. My second x is 4. Combine like terms. -2 minus 4 is -6. 1 minus 4 is -3. That reduces to 2. So let's compare these 2 angles, or these 2 slopes. They're definitely not the same, but are they opposite sign and the flipped version? One is a negative and one is a positive, so that's good. And then the flipped version means 2 is invisibly over 1. So 2 is the reciprocal version of 1/2. So these 2 are perpendicular. Perpendicular. Okay. Ta-da! These next ones. Write an equation of a line passing through the given point that is parallel to the given line. So I highlighted that because it's very important to know that our new line is going to have the same slope as the old line. So a couple things that have to happen. The old line, I'm going to write this down, needs to look like y equals mx plus b. If it's not, you need to make it look like y equals mx plus b. Here's why. M represents the slope. In order to know what the same slope is, you need to know what the old slope is. So if it's not written in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, you need to write it in slope-intercept form. Okay, so you would solve for y. In this first problem, it's already written like that. Y equals mx plus b. So, there's 3 steps to these problems. First one is to find your slope. My slope is going to be parallel to the line I'm given to, so it's going to be the same. So my new slope is negative 1/3. So check find slope. Step 2 is to plug into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Now remember, we call this point slope formula because you plug in a point and you plug in the slope. And then the last, you want to make it look like y equals mx plus b. And then that's your answer. So, first step, find the slope. We know it's parallel to the old one, which is the same. So we have negative 1/3 as my new slope. Next step is to plug in to the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So if you look again, I left blank what you plug in. The part that I wrote in black, nothing gets plugged in for. As you remember, y1 comes from the coordinate they gave you. So the y, which is 2. M, again, means slope. So your old slope was negative 1/3. Parallel to negative 1/3 is negative 1/3. And then you plug in the x of the coordinate they gave you, which is 3. So we have plugged in. Now we want to solve for y equals mx plus b. So we want to get y by itself. In order to do that, we need to distribute on the right side. So we got negative 1/3 x. Then we have negative 1/3 times negative 3. So if you remember, you're going to write that over 1. This is multiplication. So when you multiply, you don't have to have the same denominator. You just multiply straight across. So we have a negative times a negative, which makes a positive. 1 times 3 is 3. And then again, 3 times 1 is 3, which reduces to the number 1. And again, it is positive because you're multiplying a negative times a negative, which makes a positive. Last step, add 2. So y equals negative 1/3 x plus 3. We're going to use these same 3 steps on the next problem. So this next problem, what you need to keep in mind, this one says, write the equation of a line passing through the given point that is perpendicular. So not parallel. Perpendicular means the new slope is going to be opposite sine and the reciprocal. So, and reciprocal. I told you earlier, in order to know what the slope is, it needs to be written in y equals mx plus b, because then the slope is just sitting there. But this is not written in y equals mx plus b, so you need to make it look like that. So you need to solve for y, like it is in the formula. So we need to get y by itself. 2x is on the same side as y, so we're going to have to move it over. We're going to subtract it on both sides. You cannot subtract a letter from a number. Some people try to, and it's not possible. You're just going to write them next to each other. You want it to look like y equals mx plus b, so x needs to come first. And then your number, the freestanding number. So all this has done, this is not the answer. We're not even close to the answer. I need to know what the perpendicular slope is. In order to know what my new slope is, I need to know what my old slope is. So my old slope is -2. I need to find what is perpendicular to -2. So we're going to do the opposite sign and the reciprocal. So opposite of negative is positive, and the reciprocal of 2 over 1 is 1 over 2. So my new slope is 1/2. Okay, 1/2. So step 1, find your slope. Done. Step 2, you're going to plug in y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So again, we plug in y, the y they gave you, which would be 0. M represents your slope. You want your perpendicular slope, which we said was 1/2. And then x, which is 4. You should combine this. Y minus 0 is y. On the right side, distribute. 1/2 times x is 1/2 x. 1/2 of -4. 1/2 times -4. Again, put it over 1. Distribute. 1 times -4 is -4. 2 times 1 is 2. This is the same as -2. That's it. The last one we do together is the same thing. This one's actually easier a little bit. It still needs to look like y equals mx plus b. Sorry, Miss Hat interrupted me again. You're solving for y. So you want to get y by itself. You're going to have to move over this -5. To move it over, you're going to add 5. Again, our whole goal is to make it look like y equals mx plus b. So once that is gone, we got y equals, you want your x first, so we're going to write x, and then the plus 5 will be next to it. So we need to find out what the old slope is. The old slope is in front of the letter x, which is a 1. So perpendicular to 1 would be opposite sign, so instead of positive, it's negative, and then the reciprocal is 1. So we're going to plug in y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we're going to plug in the y that they gave us, which is 4. Plug in my perpendicular slope, which is -1. Then plug in x, which is 1. So we're going to distribute. -1 times x is -1x. We don't normally write 1x, so I'm just going to write -x. -1 times -1 is +1. Finish the problem by adding 4. Y equals -x plus 5. So there it is. Keep in mind this is a very big coincidence that the plus 5s match. That won't happen very often, if ever. Just happens to have happened today. That is it for chapter 3.